Hi, my name is Diamond Smith, and I'll be talking about the impact of mindfulness intervention on race-based stress, particularly in African Americans. So, hypertension is the leading cause of death among African Americans compared to other racial and ethnic groups in the United States. So, the purpose of my presentation is to explore mindfulness intervention as a possible solution to chronic stress among African Americans. So, the type of stress I'll be discussing is race based stress, and this is any form of racism or discrimination that can be linked to distress in African Americans that cause increased blood pressure. These type of racism can be interactions with others, social economic status, societal beliefs, or institutional racism, and this can be categorized into two categories of lifetime discrimination or everyday discrimination. So, usually, when individuals experience stress, the sympathetic nervous system is activated and blood pressure is increased. The stress hormone of cortisol is increased throughout the body. And even if the threat is still perceived after it has passed, the body can continue to be physiologically aroused. And so I studied the persistent exposure of race based stress in African Americans and how it can be related to hypertension. So, studies were overall able to find a positive correlation between racism and hypertension. And most studies agreed that lifetime discrimination had a stronger effect than everyday discrimination. So, Zeters et al. Studied the daily cortisol levels in different racial and ethnic groups and found that African Americans had higher cortisol levels compared to white Americans due to perceived racism. Orman et al. Studied the effects of discrimination and stigma consciousness on blood pressure in minority men, and they found that minorities who were more aware of their stereotype status were more at risk of having hypertension. Ford et al. Found that African Americans who developed hypertension were more likely to have experienced lifetime discrimination than everyday discrimination, and this is particularly found in older adults. Um, Beertree and Moody et al. Found a positive correlation in lifetime discrimination as well. They were able to study individuals who were born before the Civil Rights Movement in 1968. And Michaels et al. Found that African American um, women had a positive relationship with lifetime racism and hypertension. And so this article suggested mindfulness based intervention as a possible coping mechanism. And so mindfulness based intervention basically is a technique that promotes regulated breathing, self awareness, thought awareness, and body relaxation. It promotes being present in the moment and being non-judgmental towards your thoughts, emotions, and physical awareness. And this can be things as focusing on your breathing, going for a walk. And usually these techniques can be beneficial in deactivating the sympathetic nervous system in the body. So, Locke et al. Found that mindfulness based interventions had a positive result in lowering blood pressure by having participants use self regulation techniques, attention control, and self awareness. Solano Lopez found that mindfulness based stress reduction was effective in decreasing diastolic and systolic blood pressure. We were able to find that um, using mindfulness based intervention in African Americans was positively correlated with reducing blood pressure, especially when targeting emotional and physiological reactions to perceived stress. And Palta et al. Examined the effects of mindfulness intervention on blood pressure in older African Americans. And so this study used a social group as a control group and found that mindfulness-based techniques were more beneficial. And overall, so African Americans who experience stress due to racism and discrimination are at risk for higher blood pressure. So, using mindfulness based interventions can be beneficial in lowering physiological arousal and preventing hypertension.